You're listening to the Beauty Beyond Bella podcast, powered by Formula Wellness.
I'm your host, Dr. Yvette Suarez, owner and medical director of Bella Excellence, a diamond-accredited anti-aging med spa in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. On this show, we explore the latest trends in health, beauty, and anti-aging medicine while celebrating the inspiring journeys and achievements of our guests.
Wow. Welcome, Raz. I'm so happy to have you here. And, I'm just going to start and ask you a really difficult question because for me, that was really hard to understand. First, let me talk about intelligent quotient. I'm going to say I like to think that I'm over 130 and I'm just a genius. But I think in the everyday world, I'm pretty on a 90. I'm on a basic 90 every single day. And I think it just takes effort every single day to really be our best. But you're talking about EQ. What is that concept about?
So IQ, as you explained really well, and I get that a lot of people ask me that question, and there are so many different answers. I heard people talking about EQ as a street smart or ability to understand emotions, have better relationships. It basic definition of EQ is identifying, understanding, and managing our own emotions, but also understanding emotions of others. That's where the EQ makes a big difference.
That makes it more difficult.
That's much more difficult. And we cannot understand others' emotions if we don't understand ours. And there's a whole process and framework I created on how to regulate and manage our own emotions.
So do you think in this coming world that we're going to, for mental health, it's a really big deal right now?
Yeah.
Would the EQ be part of that, understanding not only other people's emotions, but I think we have a hard time processing our own emotions in a healthy way?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be a huge in the future because what are people, we have so much loneliness now. We never had that before. We are, as we becoming more of an individual society, so much burden on us. And that's why the stress is so high. And people maybe understand what an EQ is, and that's why we struggle with relationships. That's the biggest thing with EQ. And leadership. We have a crisis of leadership. We have crisis of relationships. And that's because of EQ. That's because of emotional intelligence, because we don't understand ours again. So it's very difficult to understand somebody else's.
Yeah, so when you talk about relationships, that's going to be really interesting. We've all had our baggage. We've all had things in the past happen to us, and how we process that really dictates what we're going to have in our future relationships. And so does this process help people understand who they are and how they can get better and past that?
Absolutely. And there are many methods out there. Traditionally, what most of us have done is talk therapy, right? We go to a psychologist, they listen to it, they understand, they help us understand and identify. And sometimes they help us manage. But some of that work needs to be internal. For our relationships to improve, I think the step one is to identify, what happened, and then understand it. Not only identify, we usually, go to a therapist or talk to a friend or something like that. We are able to identify the emotion. Okay, this is what happened. He said this, or he was not very caring person, and he was a narcissist, which is we hear a lot these days. Everybody's narcissist.
We all know a narcissist.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who, but we all know.
Yeah, it was what our relationship ended because he was a narcissist, and he just took advantage of me. Or our relationship ended because he didn't understand my love language. Or our relationship ended because he was not understanding. So all that means emotions. These are all emotion related. Okay, or your relationship, and how good were you setting at boundaries? Oh, no, I was not. I was always, I want to make, I thought if I'm more empathetic and give more, it will help improve my relationship. But in some cases, it does, but in the long run, we know we need to set boundaries. And now if I go to my next relationship and I don't really learn to manage that, however, I identified it, I wasn't really good at boundary setting because I have a hard time saying no. okay, how I'm going to improve in my next relationship. So what happens, we jump from one to another with just understanding and identification, but not managing or regulating the emotion. To say, okay, have I built enough inner strength so when I go and I'm able to now be stronger in my next relationship?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that you said say no. I said earlier in a podcast that my year this year is I was going to have an 80-20 rule. And
Okay.
20% of the time, I was going to have to learn to say no
Yeah.
and not overextend myself.
Yeah.
I will say I'm probably only at 5-10%.
Yeah.
I have not made it to 20 yet, but I can see that it really takes a toll on ourselves. And I think, like you said, it's understanding what our boundaries are. And a lot of times, I don't think people know what their own boundaries are or really what they really want half the time. And so
Right.
understanding that and having that introspection, I think, is a very difficult thing for people.
100%. And part of it is because we don't spend enough time understanding us. What we are doing is, since we don't have a strong inner compass, who is telling us what to do? Everybody else. So then, and we've been, is part of it is we grew up like that, right? We are told what to do, and then we kind of build that, and we continuously take in listening. But as we grow, we should start to kind of build our own inner compass. And what happens with the saying no part is, they say that's the hardest thing in the English language, is to say no. And I think it's in all languages, right?
3-year-olds know how to say that really well.
Yeah.
We can't figure that out.
Exactly. And because of there's lots of emotions attached with the no. That's the reason why. Word no is like 2 letters, N-O, no. Okay. Easy, right? I can say no, right? But the amount of emotions that goes in the background of saying no is unbelievable. It's like, oh, if I say no, would they like me? Oh, are they now gonna ask me again? Or what's gonna happen, that are they going to not invite me to this party again? Right?
So we're people pleasers, right? We don't want to
Essentially, we
disappoint
are.
anyone.
And I think, good, you're absolutely right. We are, but we don't please ourselves. Saying no is pleasing you, Yvette, right?
Yes.
And you rather please someone else and then please yourself. Then what happens is, who gets the stress?
We do. Yeah, I agree.
So we rather live in stress and anxiousness than say no.
I think that's the majority of the population, though. I mean, with
Unfortunately,
the rate of anxiety currently and depression, I thought it was really interesting that you said in today's world, most people are lonely. And that really broke my heart, because I can see that. And I don't know if it's our kids are growing up in a social media world. They're not really interacting with other human beings as much as we did in our age platform. And I miss that. And I really wish that we have a better interaction, and whether it's understanding other people's emotions, but just being together. I don't think that you can even understand how to handle your own emotions or someone else if you're not around other human beings and really interacting on a day-to-day basis.
that is so true. That is what happens is, in our mind, we can heal. And then I start talking to you and you say, Raz, you want to come to my party? But I'm not quite ready yet, right? And I should be doing something else, but I say yes to you, right? Because now we have somebody else involved. Because I never really healed through my emotions or understand or know how to regulate it. And I haven't really set my boundaries yet, but I end up saying yes. What you said is totally makes sense. In interaction with others is how we learn, how we get mirrored, and how we learn our own emotions. Because sometimes people say, okay, I'm just going to work on this, but without why. That's why in my 4 pillar of success, is most important pillar is relationships. And what happens is, we have scale. Some relationships we are good at, right? As a parent, you are good at relation. I'm hoping people are good at relationship with their kids. Sometimes we're good with family. Sometimes we're good with friends. But when it comes to significant others, we struggle the most. Why? Why do we struggle there the most and other relationship we don't? Because the stakes are higher.
Right.
The stakes are a lot higher. And that same thing happens with emotions. The bigger decisions we need to make, the higher the stakes are, we get more stress and anxiety, right? And in those relationships, we suffer the most because if it's not healthy, if it's healthy, it's the most beautiful thing in the world, right? It's the most beautiful thing is to have a happy, healthy partner, a soulmate, right? We all crave that. We all want it. And without understanding our own emotions, that's where most of the suffering comes in for us too. And learning how to manage our own emotions will help us find that soulmate one and then keep it.
No, I love that. And I don't think the learning process ever ends. I think that's a false concept. I think it depends on what season we are in our lives and what we're going to continuously learn. I just recently I redid my love language.
Okay.
And I did an apology language. And I was very surprised on what that meant and what that meant for me and what that meant for my partner of how do we look at apologies and how do we look at love language. And I think every single season I've been in, my answers have been different. And it goes to show you that we're constantly growing, constantly evolving. And this is not one thing that we're going to learn forever, but we're going to have to continuously learn throughout our lifetime.
100%. I had a lengthy discussion with a friend of, it was a group of us, and we were talking about love languages. And I say, okay, can there be more than 4? Or 5, sorry. The 5 is what is talks about in the book. I said it's possible, but 5 is what's been talked about in that book. So everybody try to put themselves into that. Can apology be a love language? How do you apologize? How do you communicate? So you're so right that every decade we change. And maybe decade, maybe, as we grow, sometimes something happen and it shift. And we were also talking about how, we may have a primary love language and a secondary love language, but in a different season, that might switch.
And it does.
It does, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about. And sometimes because I think the emotional intelligence is all about not static thinking.
Yes.
Because if your thinking is not, people say, oh, I have a growth mindset. Oh, great. But is your thinking static with that growth mindset, right? Most people with a high IQ and good EQ, they want to grow. But this thing that we might, static thinking to me means, we have a belief system and we're stuck with it. Or we read something and this is what it is. And we really don't question. Like Einstein used to say, if you think sky is blue, it's blue. You never question it.
Right.
Right.
So you went back and you talked a little bit about 4 pillars. And if we think about 4 pillars and we think of a table having 4 different legs to actually support this and actually make it better, we also believe in 4 pillars. Our 4 pillars are aesthetics, wellness, nutrition, and brain performance, which to me also incorporates mental health. I think that has a lot to do with your 4 pillars. Can you tell me about what your 4 are?
Yeah, mine are finances, health, which is kind of very similar to yours, inner peace, and relationships. And I think the 3 other pillars of yours and ours mine are very similar. Even financial is, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and she goes, "Okay, how would you explain, inner beauty and finances, right?" I said, "Yeah, this obvious answer is you need, money to survive, but why is money important with emotional intelligence? How they correlate to each other?" And they say, it's something called the money block. And if you've heard of it, or there's lots of people been talking about it, we set our own limitation, to say, okay, this is all I can make. Because money, the other word is currency, which is a vibration. Right, so if you're assuming that money is a vibration and you set a certain limitation on your vibration, you're not gonna make more than that, right? So and all those are self-limiting. And one of the things I talk about in my book is the trifecta of emotions. So most people understand emotions as anger, love, envy, hate, jealousy. Those are emotions. But there's other things that make up of our emotional management, right? The one is called the triggers. That's typically the first thing happen. You smell something, somebody says a word that your mom used to say, and you get, or your dad when he got angry at you, you instantly go back and you feel that emotion. And then, or he had a breakup with somebody and they said, oh yeah, you have an ugly nose. Just and then you got fixated on that. So can I have an ugly nose? I'm not pretty. And even some of the most beautiful people I've seen, they don't feel pretty, and that's because of their own limiting belief. So we have some type of trigger, we feel an emotion, and then if that gets repeated again and again, we develop a self-limiting belief. And those three things I call the trifecta of resistance: self-limiting beliefs, triggers, and emotions that kind of stops us from managing our own emotions in general, or keeps us where we are and not let us grow. Or even if we grow, we go like this. We have some external motivation, we're excited, and then it goes back. We go back to a seminar or read a book, externally motivated, back. So my goal of my book is to create a framework where people can have internal motivation and create that when they needed it, manage those emotions when they need to.
And look, we all need these books that are so motivational. I think one of the things, and I'm hearing from you, is it's really also about consistency, right? This up and down and not understanding, but we need to put one foot in front of the other and continuously strive to do better. We're always not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. I think we discussed it a little bit, but really understanding that there is no limit. We are wonderful human
Limitless.
beings.
Absolutely.
We are limitless. We can do anything we want to do, and really believe that and own that and grow from that.
Absolutely. And I think, and I believe that most of the people and all the books, literature that has been written by Greek philosophers like Seneca and Stoicism, you look at ancient Hindu philosophy, you look at Buddhism, you look at Christianity, you look at all the religions, and you look at all the philosophers, they all talk about managing our thought process, because we manifest with thinking. Well, I have the awareness, I need to have positive thinking. Raj, you need to have positive thinking. Okay, I know it, but I can't do it. It's not that I want to think negatively,
Right.
but that's how the mind is got trained, because we never really learn how to go back. Oh yeah, you can do affirmations. Yeah, but affirmation is just building upon my negative thought process, allows me to get there and I come back. So really understanding the emotions and going back and seeing where it came from and then learn to manage it is the way we're going to start thinking more positively, right? I know you were talking about something and I went on to the...
No, that's okay. Look, I think it's such a large spectrum, truly, right?
Yeah.
It could be as simple as driving in traffic and somebody cutting me off
Yeah.
and not even caring. Like just saying it's not even worth my time to get
Yeah.
my heart rate to increase, to be upset.
Exactly.
I look at them and I'm like, I hope you make it wherever you need to go.
Right.
And just keep it going. And it could be as simple as that to something really traumatic in your life. This really encompasses everything we are, our entire being.
Absolutely.
The Formula Wellness 4 cornerstones are nutrition, functional wellness, aesthetics, and brain health. These serve as a guide rail for individuals that are pursuing longevity inside and out. Formula Wellness is setting the new benchmark in preventative healthcare and aesthetics. Thank you for all of your support. To learn more, please visit www.formulawellness.com.
Absolutely. And you talked about discipline now, remembering, and perfectionism, and how we build discipline is that we keep doing the same thing and we get better at it, and now we are disciplined in it. But discipline is one of those things we are continuously growing along with the and where is helpful and where it isn't, because you can have a discipline in bad things like negative thinking. You have a discipline of negative thinking, that can be good, but you have a discipline of positive thinking, that is great. Now, perfectionism is one topic I talk about a lot because I grew up with that mindset. It's nothing was good enough. No matter if I got an A, why didn't I get an A plus? If I got a B, I should have got an A. If I, win at something, why wasn't I the top player at. So that's definitely important to have that kind of perfectionist mindset. But what's the flip side? So perfectionist mindset also creates a fear of making a mistake. When you have a fear of making a mistake, you don't take chances. So sometimes we get stuck in analysis and paralysis. And I found myself in that many times. Some of the smallest decisions I'll analyze forever.
Yes.
It's like, okay, this is like has no significant impact in my life. But it comes from my perfectionism mindset. And I obsess about that decision. Right. So as I'm applying the formula on myself, I see, okay, yeah, there's a benefit to it, but let's kind of separate to see where my perfectionism is hurting me and where it's helping me. And then develop the discipline to kind of keep working on that emotion that's beneficial for me.
No, I love that. I will say I'm the same way. I'm even hard on my kids, right? You have to make sure you get straight A's. You have to behave well. You have to go to church. You have to follow all these rules. And I think, look, it's not necessarily, I think of it as being perfect, but we are very driven. We want the best. We're always pushing for ourselves, but we need to have forgiveness. And so I always love to say, since I'm God's child, I'm perfectly perfect, right? So means I don't have to be perfect. I have to do my best. I have to put my best foot forward. I have to be kind to others. I have to be kind and respectful to myself. But then we do absolutely wonderful. And it's okay to make mistakes. And it's okay not to always be perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Not driven, but perfect.
Absolutely. I think you distinguish it perfectly between driven and perfectionism, right? Sometimes you say, okay, what does perfectionism bring us? High quality, right? That's why we want to be perfect, because we want to produce quality products, quality children's, and it's a great to have perfectionism. There's nothing wrong with it. But every emotion has duality. And, we are given those emotions for a reason, right? Perfectionism, if we have it, it's a reason, because we want to be quality and you want to have the best children. But learning and teaching, and that's where the EQ comes in, and differentiating those things you just said is, okay, yes, I want you to be driven, I want you to be super successful, but take a chance too. And if you fail, learn from it. I want you to go fail at it so you can learn how to manage that emotion. Sometimes nowadays, we are given trophies for everything. And that also, we don't learn to manage your emotions. How do we manage failure? Because in life, we will have failure. We will have breakups. Somebody will hurt us, emotionally. And that's just, as a human being, we have emotions. So when that happens, have I built enough resilience for me? And am I teaching that to my children? True.
Look, I completely agree with that. We live in a world that every child gets a trophy for losing. And you're right. And it's not about being a winner or loser. And we don't want our children to feel bad about losing. And none of us want to feel bad about losing, but it's not losing. We all played. We all did really well. I played sports growing up. And it was that ambition to try to be the best, to try to win, to try to beat every team. It didn't make the teams that didn't win any less, but giving them a trophy really didn't allow them to strive to get the trophy. And so I feel like sometimes we're doing them a disservice by not allowing them to be more driven and push a little bit harder. And and like you said, we all fail in life. There are all goods and bads. And if you're not prepared for that as you become older, then you're going to really become depressed that you can't be at the top of your game.
100%. You ask any pro athletes in their field that is at top of it, they'll talk about winning and losing.
Yes.
Right? How do we only when we lose we learn, right? Because in winning we might can strive a little better, and I think most people know that in losing we learn. It's just how the lens we have created around loss. because we want to avoid pain. Because we don't want our children to feel pain. Because we feel that if they feel pain, and it will hurt them.
Yes.
And it's the wrong way of looking at it. We want to teach them how to manage their emotions. If it's an emotion of loss, if it's a fear of losing, and if they lose, right, we don't teach them to lose, we teach them to succeed. But if they lose, we need to help them manage their emotions and learn from that, and they don't do the same thing. So same thing happens if I was never taught that. Now I'm adult, I'm in a relationship with somebody, and she breaks up with me. Well, how am I going to manage my emotions? I've lost something.
And with all the violence we have in today's world, they really don't know how to process that.
100%.
So, I mean, I think your book comes in a wonderful time talking about trifecta and EQ quotient. So I'm going to ask you, if you need to give me some advice about EQ, what would that be? What can I work on to grow?
And I think it's so individual. I mean, you talked about your 80-20. I think that's a great way. I think that is you talk about setting boundaries. I mean, saying no is what you're essentially saying. I want to learn how to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. And the most essential thing in a relationship beside communication is boundaries. Right. We communicate, and we also communicate our boundaries to our partners. And relationship is not only your partner, but also your friends, and also your parents. And which is difficult to say no to the family side of things, because especially your parents. I'm very close to my family, and if my mom wants something, or my dad, it'd be very difficult to say no for me, right? But what I found is the how part is the challenge. It's like I was not a great communicator when I was younger. Now I communicate and explain the reason why and how it makes me feel, so people understand why I'm saying no. And some will and some don't. If the other person has a higher emotional intelligence, they will understand it. Others will still make us feel guilty about it.
Yes.
Right? And then when somebody makes you feel guilty about it, how are you going to manage your own emotions and have that self-compassion, self-love, and gratitude that you were talking about?
No, I love that. I definitely have to work on that. And I agree with you. You do start to feel guilty. People put on that, you can do a little bit more. It's okay. And I'm like, I could.
Yeah.
I don't want to, right?
Yeah.
I have to get to a point where I'm okay where I'm at, and it's going to be okay to say no. I think where I start to fail a little bit is I'll say no, and then I'll get asked 20 more times. Can't you just do it this one more time, right?
Yeah.
And then you give in.
Yeah.
And I think it just gets to a point, maybe I'm just not going to answer the phone anymore or answer my text messages when the begging begins.
Yeah.
Because they're simple things, but
Yeah.
things that, in my frame right now in this season of my life is I want to learn to say no a little bit more. I want to have different experiences and really kind of work on different parts of my life. And I appreciate that. And I am really working hard on that. Tell me a little bit, as far as you, what advice would you give even to yourself or to those who are watching this, and when they're reading your book?
Yeah.
Maybe where they start, because sometimes if you're not close to having that good EQ, it's really difficult to begin.
Absolutely. And I think identification is step one. Is like, where do I struggle? And there's so many areas. So I think whatever season you are in, like you said, maybe you're in the season of relationship, you maybe in a financial, maybe it's your health that is suffering, maybe it's to do with your outer beauty or inner beauty, challenges that you're having. Whichever season that you are in, work in that season. We don't have to go back to a different season or try to fix it. Identify what is happening at the moment that is having your emotions off. And then once that is identified, work on that, because there's so much stuff.
Right.
If you
We can't throw it all at them.
you open that can of worms, yeah, we are gonna be we'll get depressed more. So I say work on one thing that is happening right now, because everything is all interconnected. If we solve one thing and it starts to kind of open up. One of the things I want to mention for myself and was kind of interesting when you talk about shame and guilt. Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors, and she writes so much about shame and guilt. And I've studied so much of her books and everything else around shame and guilt. And, we are brought up with lots of shame and guilt, both from how we are raised and also from, unfortunately, religion has lots of guilt in it. So what we have done as we have become adults, we carry lots of guilt. I'm apologizing for no reason. I lived in Minnesota for 25 years, and it's Minnesota nice. People just apologizing. Even somebody bump into you. I'm sorry, you you bumped into me.
Yes.
But and that's for Minnesota, that's cultural. But in general, that's an exaggerated example of it. But we are always feeling guilty, even though we haven't done anything wrong.
I think it's even worse for women. We constantly apologize for everything. I hurt your feelings. I'm so sorry. You are walking down the aisle at Publix and somebody goes to ship and you go, I'm so sorry. Like we really truly, I think as women even apologize more. And I think it is. It's cultural. It's a habit. And we all have to try to kind of set that tone back. And it really shouldn't be guilt.
No.
And I know religion has plenty of guilt, but God doesn't want us to feel guilty. We want to be empowered. And I love books that are going to continuously empower people not to have guilt, not to have self-regret, not to self-limit, but to really be powerful in their own right.
100%. And apologizing is nothing wrong with it. If you feel that we do apology, but feeling guilty is the problem, right? So though sometimes we equate the two together and say, okay, there's one and the same. No. If you have done something wrong, we should apologize for it, and that's okay. But if you're apologizing for no reason, that's when we're continuously feeling guilty. And then what would that happen? You cannot say no. Then you cannot set boundaries, right? So it's all connected. How we are trained to feel guilty is connect with me having a hard time telling no to you. And then if you did say no, you're going to feel guilty. Then I know you feel guilty. So then I'm going to ask you 10 times more. Eventually, I'll guilt you into it.
You will guilt me into it. It's terrible.
Right? So which is how the whole society kind of works.
I'm going to bring that back to them. Don't guilt me into anything anymore.
Sometimes I say that. I think that's okay. I think now you're making me feel guilty. Because I think sometimes we don't express the emotion we are feeling and the other person doesn't understand it.
Right.
They feel like, do you really want it? But you're just saying no. No, I don't want to go.
I truly mean no.
I truly mean it. I'm feeling guilty. So sometimes expressing our emotions help others understand like how it's making me feel. And that's why when we set boundaries, we explain the person, this is how it's making me feel. You all, like say, if your husband is always late, I'm not saying he is, but if he was, and you always get mad, you come home, you're pissed off all the time, right? Or you're always late, it doesn't help. What helps is like, say, when you are late, it's, I'm worried. I don't know if something happened to you. It makes me concerned. I feel anxiety sometimes. So when you explain our emotions to somebody, it helps them better understand why we're doing what we're doing. Our typical method is avoidance. Our typical method is, I'm going to give you silent treatment.
Yes.
Right? Which is our best
form of
tool.
Punishment.
Yeah, form of punishment. Our best and worst tool is the silent treatment, which we feel is best, but it's the worst.
So I think that's the worst.
Yeah, it's 100%. And how are we gonna be? And so those are all these things we are talking about. They're all part of emotional intelligence. That's what it is. I mean, now we're talking just a common day to day what we're doing. If we have a higher emotional intelligence, this is how I will set my boundaries. And if my significant other has a higher emotional intelligence, they will understand that. So we need to elevate ourselves and also understand other emotions. Especially now you have staff, you have people here, you have people working for you here. how important it is to be a great leader to them. And that also certain at a certain point, IQ cannot make you a better leader.
Right.
It's EQ. How well you understand your employees' emotions. One of my favorite authors, John C. Maxwell, he talks about 5 levels of leadership. And he say, okay, anybody can, not sure say anybody. Level 1 is easiest. You became a boss. You and I can start a company. Instantly, I'm the boss. I don't need leadership skills. Like, okay, great. I'm a boss. You listen to me. I said it. I know what I'm doing. I have a high IQ, right? And then that requires almost very little emotional intelligence, almost nothing. Level 2 is, oh, now I'm the boss, but I want my employees to like me, right? So you become a level 2. Requires a little more emotional intelligence go from a positional boss to a boss level 2 where people start to like you. Now, the biggest challenge that most entrepreneur has, and we have, and even with kids, now we want them to get things done, right? Right? So that's level
How do you
3.
say that nicely?
Right? Okay, you are the boss. I'm the boss. I know that, and you like me, but I need stuff done. Otherwise, companies don't survive, or families, children don't grow properly. So that's level 3. Requires even a higher level of emotional intelligence, right? Now we get to level 4. So okay, what does that mean? Now you have 20 people working for you, and you want one person to be the leader. So now you have to develop another leader in the company, in the business. That's going to require a higher level of emotional intelligence and higher amount of patience, right? Because now you're teaching them how to be you. And that's
I
not
love
easy.
all of those. I can see myself going through every single
Right?
that you're going through.
Yeah.
And I agree with all of them. They are completely different skill sets.
But
Completely
the
different.
difference is EQ.
Yes.
Between each skill, so you had the IQ, you can start the business, you can be a great doctor, you can do all the things on your own. That's fine. You may not need very high level of emotional intelligence, but when you start to have people around you, you need to have a higher. That's why the definition, if I go back to, is not understanding your emotions and understanding others.
Yeah. Look, I love all of those. And I think when you're working and you own a company, I look at them as part of my family. And just like family, I could be brutally honest and I can be encouraging and I can show empathy, right? But they have to understand all of those factors. And I think giving up control and leadership is something I've learned more recently, and I've actually really enjoyed it because I feel like you are lifting another human being to be at their best potential. And so if you look at it that it's not about you, it's about the greater good and making sure that everyone is successful and doing great, it really becomes a lot more rewarding.
Absolutely. And it's like raising a child, right? Because you're teaching somebody else to be a leader, be like you. And interestingly enough, you talk about letting go of control. And instantly, I thought about my perfectionism mindset. The reason I couldn't is because of the perfectionism.
Right.
And when we let go and of I'm not saying you let go of perfectionism, when we let go of part of it that allows me to develop other leaders, that's a good letting go. So most people will advise me or anybody else, oh, wow, what you need to do is let go, Raz. Okay. Journal let go statement doesn't sit well with me because I'm a perfectionist. A specific part where I need to let go, and that's what we need to identify. What we're doing, not we just let go. We let go in a certain situation, in a certain area of our life. It's very situational and it's very dependent on, like you're talking about seasons or where we are in life or where we are in the business, where we are in our relationships. Where do we need to let go?
Right. So I'm going to ask you a question about beauty. It says beauty could be an inside feeling, an outside feeling, Beauty could be feeling lighter within, less anxiety within, feeling unburdened. What would beauty mean to you?
I go to why instead of what beauty means. Could be eyes of the beholder. I mean, there's so many definitions. Or if I just explain it, I'm not the person that's going to be really good at explaining beauty, but what I'm good at explaining confidence.
Okay.
Okay. So why do I want to feel beautiful, inside or outside? Because I want to feel good. I want to feel confident. Okay. Sometimes I may feel confident if I get a good haircut. Sometimes I feel confident when I can pray and feel good in that moment. I feel good. Sometimes I feel confident when I'm in a good relationships. My business is growing. There's so many different ways I feel confident, and beauty works the same way to me. We do these things, we dress nice because we want to feel good. It's about our feelings, about our emotions. Goes back to EQ, right? How do I want to feel is why I want to do it. Some people, now, I'm not saying this should be the reason, and this is most of the people do it for that reason, but there might be some that just do it for aesthetic reason, or they have this perfectionism mindset where they want to have a perfect face, right? And you can, it's like it's like one of those targets you cannot achieve, right? Type of things. So I don't know if that helps your helps if I answer the question, but I relate to the reason why we want to feel beautiful, outside or inside.
No, I agree. I think, as Raz says, beauty could be confidence. And many people, whether it's something you want to look for on the outside to make yourself look a little bit softer, a little bit more youthful, whether it's an inside confidence that you can actually portray and show light. I think that's an amazing analogy, is the word confidence with beauty. And I really want to again thank you, Raz, for coming in. This was such a pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck with your book and your future endeavors.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Powered by Formula Wellness.